Today we're going to show you how we make our tomato basil soup. It's just a really nice, simple soup. Comes in, it's really delicious when the tomatoes are in season, so I hope you enjoy it. The first thing we're going to do, we're going to start with about 3 pounds of your favorite tomatoes. Today we're using Romas because they're the easiest thing for us to get our hands on, and we use quite a few of them here at the restaurant. When you start, when they come into season, the heritage tomatoes work really nicely. Add just a different level of complexity to the flavor of the soup. So what you do is you just take your tomatoes, cut them in half, and stick them in the oven at 375, probably for about 10-12 minutes until they're nice and cooked off. And this is actually probably the hardest part of the recipe. And then once you get these things roasted off, you let them cool down just a little, but not a lot, and then we're going to add them to our pot. Well, now that we've got our tomatoes in the oven, we can finish the rest of our preparation. Grab a couple of onions. We want to do, it can be just a rough dice on it, because the end of the process for this soup is actually you hit it with an immersion blender and make everything a little bit more smooth. So the fineness of the chop for the onion isn't of big concern. The other portion that we're part of the recipe that we do, you use some crushed tomatoes. You use about 20 plus ounces on that. These recipes will also be online, so you'll be able to get them. You just put those in the pot. We're going to start the process. We're going to start to sweat those onions, and as we're sweating those onions, we're going to chop some garlic. Again, it doesn't have to be real fine or perfect, because we're going to use an immersion blender. We're going to put these in with the onions. And as that begins to sweat, what we're going to do is we're just going to take some basil. The recipe calls for about 3 cups of basil packed. You can make that whatever you want. We're going to pull it off of here. Again, you really don't have to worry about chopping it up because of the blender. But you also want to get it in at the front end. It was a trick that a fellow chef of mine had given me. What you do, you get that in with your onions as you're sweating your onions, and you want to get that basil in there because it helps release the oil, and it gives it just a really nice licorice flavor, believe it or not. Okay, to that we're going to add our crushed tomatoes. And a quart of chicken stock. And then we're going to let that simmer for about a half hour, 45 minutes on the stove. And to this mixture we're going to add our roasted tomatoes that we pulled out of the oven. And we're going to let those cook down as well. It's actually a really nice, light, I would almost go as far to say as it would be a nice summery soup, even though it's not cold. And you let those start to simmer, and let those simmer for about a half hour, 45 minutes, and then we're going to hit it with an immersion blender. Now that we've finished our soup with the immersion blender and we've got it plated, what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of sour cream and a little bit of basil on top, and we're ready to serve.